The titles have gone a bit of a transformation. You moved from India to Bharat. What led to this change of both the visualization of the country as such and its role?
I speak really for a polity which has been there for thousands of years. You want to be a player, you don't want to be a playing field.
We spoke about your first book. I think it was during the pandemic, literally in between some waves. I remember we were masked up and having a conversation on the book. It was titled The India Way. Mm-hmm. And your second book was called Bharat Matters. So the titles have gone a bit of a transformation. You moved from India to Bharat. And the first one was about the way, the second is about India's significance in people's lives. What led to this change of both the visualization of the country as such and its role?
Well, I think when I used the word Bharat in the second book, Why Bharat Matters, as opposed to the India Way, I'm trying to capture really a kind of the transformation which has taken place in our society, in our polity, in our mindset, in our approach to the world. And in many ways you have, if you look at, the thought processes which are driving us today, I would say they are much more authentic, they are much more deeply rooted in our culture, in our traditions, in our heritage. So that is one part of it. And there's a bigger exercise in the world of cultural rebalancing, that we've seen economic rebalancing particularly through globalization. We have seen political rebalancing, but the third phase of it is really today cultural rebalancing. So there's a bigger conversation there which is going on as well. So an India which is much more conscious of its culture, history and traditions, which, for example, remembers its linkages. I give you a very practical example. The Gulf. The Gulf, our linkages with the Gulf are as old as the monsoon. That people traversed this space because of the winds. And yet, a region which is so close to us, with which we had such deep linkages, somewhere in the quest for modernity, we let go of that connection. The same applied actually to the oceans, that if you look at the islands in the Indian Ocean, or if you look east of India, that you can actually find even today, very significant evidence of major Indian civilizations which were sort of all the way up to the east coast of China. So part of it is also today, once you start thinking of yourself as a civilizational state, you remember your culture, your traditions, you then you revisit your history. You draw from that, and once you do that, you get a different level of confidence. You have difficult situations where you think of yourself, as I do, that look, I speak really for a polity which has been there for thousands of years. So you take your decisions both with a certain confidence, but also with a certain deliberation of the consequences of it for years ahead. And then there is a self-reliant side to it, which is, you want to be less vulnerable, you want to be less dependent, you want to be a player, you don't want to be a playing field. So I think it was a combination of all these factors. I felt we had made that transition, especially in the last 5 years. And that's why the title of the second book as opposed to the first.